But let's start with you guys, right? So we know that respect and trust, right, breed stronger companies, right? The building block, I think, is trust. How have you built that into your companies, your personal lives, or the partnerships, right, that you guys have been into? Can we start with you, Dami?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. Olumide, thanks for having me. So I'd say that trust is something that you build over time. I'd say that with marriage, you don't just meet someone and get married to them on the first day. You build it over a period of time by associating with the person, getting to know more about them, identifying with the challenges, and providing certain solutions as a product, providing certain solutions to the kind of challenges that you have either experienced with them or you know that they have had maybe from their childhood. I'd say that specifically for EcoVC, the problem that we're trying to solve is access to capital. We have been here since 2015, have invested in over 25 startups to date, and we're looking to do more. So I'd say that the startups that we have engaged, initially, the first conversation that we have with them, they're trying to assess us, we're trying to assess them, and just understand if our interests are aligned, and if they are the kind of entrepreneurs that we want to back, we want to support. And they're also doing due diligence and also understand if we're the kind of investors that they want to have. So I'd say that just by constant interaction and just letting them know that we identify with the problems that they're facing and how much we're willing to support them and just throw our weight behind them is something that we always put forward. I'd say that for a lot of our portfolio companies, we are always the first people that they run to when they're having challenges. The people that we have, some of our founders that we have gone way overboard for, and I was at a board committee meeting two weeks ago, and one of the founders that we had invested in was commenting about how the investors that that had invested in his company essentially just left him, gave him money, and literally just left him. And he was just thanking us for always being there and just like giving him a listening ear. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things about EcoVC, right? I think collaboration has always been sort of ingrained into the way that you guys wanted to engage with the ecosystem.
Yes, very much.
So do you find that has worked well for you guys, right? In terms of being that open, in terms of being that collaborative and really opening up or cross-pollinating, right? Business models and technologies and that engagement with your or the relationship between investor and startup. Like, how has that worked out for you?
So I'd say that's something that we try to do on set when we start engaging an entrepreneur, is let them know what our terms are. And that is typically the first thing. Once we pass the due diligence phase where we're interested and we know that we want to go ahead with investments, what we try to do is let them know what we would offer and the kind of investment terms. So everything is out in the open. So we're not trying to, there's nothing that we're not trying to sneak anything on you. We're not trying to sidetrack or trying to backtrack on our terms. I think something that we have seen with other investors, not in this ecosystem actually, is they give you a term sheet, and just when you're getting to this stage where you're about to close out, they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, we're not going to go ahead with this deal," and that is something that we're always very upset about, because there's a lot of effort that has been put in by the entrepreneur to get to that extent. And of course, he's said no to a couple of investors, and those investors, kind of just leave him alone. But then he has to go back to them and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, there's a deal that we're doing now where this same thing has happened, and we're saying, you know what? Regardless of that, we're willing to support you, even if this other investor doesn't want to go ahead with the deal." And the deal almost got scuttled, but we just rally round to get the deal done, and hopefully it should close in a couple of days. But I'd say that specifically with regards to just supporting entrepreneurs and other people in the ecosystem, we organize and just help out with a bunch of events, and just let people know that we're out there, and that we're willing to support and just help entrepreneurs any way that we can. We have office hours just to listen to entrepreneurs and hear what they have to say. Yeah.
Okay. So Peter, right? How would you say that, as a social impact entrepreneur, right? How important has collaboration been for you, right, to your success and to the success of your past companies?
Okay. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure I've ever thought about collaboration in the context of social entrepreneurship and it being kind of more or less than other startups. I think when I think about collaboration in the context of a startup, it really starts with the team. Because before you can collaborate outside of the team with other companies, with governments, with your customers, you have to be able to collaborate as like a founding team and early employees. And for me, I would say that starts with understanding yourself as an entrepreneur, and so really kind of understanding your strengths and weaknesses in mentoring other startups and also in reflecting on kind of my own startup journey. I realized and I saw that a lot of entrepreneurs do too many things, and they do things that they're not good at. And also telling somebody that they're not good at something is not a good way to convince them to stop doing it. But really, there are things that you do at an early stage startup because you're the only person and you're mopping the floors and you're doing the accounting and you're doing the product development, you're doing the engineering, you're doing everything. And very soon, if the company is going to grow and be successful, a lot of times that entrepreneur is the bottleneck, the limiting factor, because they're doing things that no longer make sense for them to do. And so it's about understanding yourself. It's about understanding what you could accomplish if you gave up certain things and learned to trust and hand those off to other people. I think that for me, the beginnings of being able to trust other people were in understanding kind of my own limitations and also my own strengths. I think when I work with other entrepreneurs, it's more effective to start with people's strengths because people tend to know what they're good at. And usually it's best for the company if they can double down on those activities. And there are certain things that they've been doing just for legacy reasons that they don't even enjoy, and they should be handing off to someone else, and they should be cultivating that trust and delegating those things for the ultimate good of the company.
Okay, tell us a little bit about Driptech, right? And your journey with that, and how collaboration was a part of that, in terms of maybe even coming up with the product or even within the ecosystems that you were part of. What is Driptech?
Yeah. So Driptech basically is a company that makes affordable irrigation equipment for small farmers. So it started when I was in grad school. I got the chance to basically do research with small plot farmers in Ethiopia, and we saw that they had tremendous water scarcity and they had a need for the benefits of drip irrigation, but that traditional irrigation was designed for large-scale Western agriculture. So it just hadn't reached 90% of the world's farmers, but they had a need for a more affordable system. In order to make this, we had to basically develop a new product and a new manufacturing technology. So we came up with a laser manufacturing system that we could put anywhere in the world, and we could make low-cost drip irrigation there. So I quit my PhD. I started Driptech, and I started to build kind of the team, and over the course of almost 7-8 years, until it was eventually acquired by the market leader in India where we were based. I had all sorts of challenges, wins, losses, in terms of building the team, in terms of basically making good and bad decisions around kind of like the people that I was collaborating with and the context, the roles that they were in. For me, in reflecting afterwards about kind of my experience, all of the best and worst decisions I made were around team, which is fundamentally about collaboration. I guess another way, since we're talking about collaboration, that you could think about kind of collaboration is really for us was with our end customers, which were kind of like the source of kind of and the reason for the whole company. We sold a product at commercial terms to the end customer, and they made a tremendous return on investment. Our customers would regularly invest about $200 per acre of drip irrigation and see an increase in yield by $1,000 per year. So great investment for these customers. And that value, that collaboration, that kind of design of the product specifically to create value for the customers was the fundamental basis for the company, right? So that partnership with the customers, that collaboration with the customers was what made it possible to build an organization in the first place.
Okay, we're going to come back to that later. So, Shola, I don't know if you need an introduction, but please, I think it's as one of the poster childs, right, for this ecosystem, especially in an industry like fintech, right? Can you give us a picture of your journey, right, within the ecosystem and how collaboration has played a part? What does your company do for many of us who might not know?
Cool. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shola Akinlade. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Paystack. Paystack is a payments company, so we help merchants accept payments from their customers. We launched about 3 years ago, actually now 3.5 years, and now we help over 40,000 merchants accept over about $100 million every month. So we've made some progress. I think, like the journey has been very interesting. that's the shortest I could say. We launched Paystack because before then I was just doing some work for banks, and I thought that the payments, like there was an opportunity to build a payments company. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just started, and very quickly we got into Y Combinator. So we got I think we got $120,000 for 7% of the company, which was a good deal as far as I was concerned. And so we had to create a company. We had to create a payments company, and the journey started. And I think it's been everywhere we've been to today has been extremely because people came to help. My favorite Paystack, I won't say favorite, one of my favorite Paystack stories is when I think about when we were about to get into Y Combinator, when we were about to launch the company. I personally didn't think this was going to be a big deal. So I was telling some people yesterday that when we went to Y Combinator, my ambition was to just take a photo in front of SFO. Welcome to San Francisco. I was like, yeah, I've been there, And because when we got there, so Y Combinator, they invite startups from all over the world, probably about 500, and they pick about 100. So when we got there, I knew I was going to meet people from all over the world. And so one of the first companies I met, they were building a shirt that never gets dirty. So it's a white shirt, you pour dirty water on it, it doesn't get stained. I saw someone else building a bra that detects breast cancer. So you wear the bra, you install the app, and it scans you, and then if there's anything, you get a push notification. And so people were asking us, like, what are you guys working on? Like, I don't know. Must I say it here? So we said we were working on payments in Africa. And they were like, wow, Africa, how many people are in Africa? I'm like, 1 billion. Like, whoa. And so I think that was the beginning of a very long journey. And when I think of where we are today and how much help we've gotten from even, so when I think about on Paystack today, InterSwitch, I'm sure you probably know InterSwitch. It was a company that was doing, they have WebPay, which is a competing product. But Verve cards need to work on Paystack. So in fact, the collaboration starts from the product. For our product to be successful, we need to go work with our competitors. I think it starts from there. We need to work with banks. Before Paystack, most of the banks were providing payment solutions for merchants. Today, the banks, at least 6 banks, partner with us to provide these solutions to their customers. So I think on just growing through this journey, I think the first part of the collaboration is just figuring out how to partner with somebody, but still be in the same space with them. I think that's been the very first part. But I think so far it's been very, very good. I think the second part of it is, I would say also maybe talent. All of us are here now. We're competing for the same talent. I'm sure Fahim is. So, but again, we have an ecosystem, and you have companies and you have talent. And so, just being able to, how do we as an ecosystem build the talent pool in the ecosystem, but still make sure that the best talent are on my own side, not on your side. So I think that's the second part. So it's fair and it's fine, and I think that works. And I think the final part to it for me is the future. When I think of the work we're doing at Paystack, I think we're creating a future that doesn't exist. And I guess the interesting part is, how do you figure out your own part in that future? Because I know we're not going to solve all the problems. We're just going to do our part. Ecovis is going to do their part. Gokada will do their part and all that. So I think just figuring out what part you have to play in that future is, for me, the interesting part of it, And to be honest, we know that, let's just get payments. Let's remove friction around payments. Let's build the ecosystem. Let's make sure that more companies are being built. We try to do a lot on the Y Combinator side. So when we launched Paystack, we were the first Nigerian companies to get into Y Combinator. Today, there are 18 Nigerian companies in 3 years. And we're not taking any credit for that. But my sense is that just being active in the ecosystem where things are thriving is very important. So I guess, to summarize, Paystack is the result of a functioning, collaborative ecosystem. And I'm just glad and proud at how much progress we've made at the ecosystem.
I like how you talked about, collaboration started at the product level, right? And because of that, people who you might not, or who might not want to partner with you, right, had to and started looking at partner with you, right? So you look at the banks, you look at it InterSwitch, right? Just really briefly, when you look at the Nigerian factor that we talked about, right, trust being something that is a little scarce sometimes, right? How did you convince, apart from the product, right? How did you convince some of these companies to work with you? And is that still something that is hard to do? Are they more open now because because of just the nature of where fintech is and banking is?
I think our answer was spot on. It takes time. And I think for us, it was less about convincing the company and convincing the people in the company. So when I think about one of the first banks, our primary bank, or one of our big banks now, is Zenith Bank. I'm going to name drop them. But we got into Zenith Bank through an account officer. I didn't know the MD. I didn't know anybody there, So you just needed somebody that could align with and say, guy, help us, and it worked out, and there's some, when I did Diamond Bank, when I met the person there, what he told me was, my wife used Paystack and she liked it, so he had heard about us before. So my sense is that it takes time, but it also takes just serving people as individuals, just doing your own thing one after the other. And then with time, you just build that reputation.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the secret, guys. Guy, help me now. All right. So, Fahim, I think intrinsically, right, Gokada from its inception has needed collaboration, right, to sort of become what it is, right, the success that it is. And I think your journey, even in the past, has been one of collaboration. So take us, not just from Gokada, right, but take us through that journey to even coming to Nigeria and becoming part of this collaborative ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long journey here. I don't know if a lot of you know about me, but I'm not from Nigeria. I'm actually from New York, and my parents are from Bangladesh. So Nigeria is a very foreign place to me. But motorcycle ride sharing kind of has a close place in my heart because I went to Bangladesh in 2014 and I started a venture factory. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's an incubator of sorts where you tell people to start companies and you give them funding. And I did that because I saw Bangladesh as a unique opportunity, 160 million people, growing GDP, 7% year-over-year growth on GDP, very good economically, but nobody was looking at it from a technology perspective and saying, hey, this is a country that you should invest in. This country has problems just like any other country. So I went there in 2014 with some money that I saved up from other ventures that I started in New York. And we launched a couple projects. And one of the projects was a package delivery company that we called Patao. And Patao means to send in Bengali. And that was the only one that actually did kind of well. Everything else failed miserably. And I thought I was going to lose all my money. And this whole thing was a mistake, just like my parents said. I should have never gone there. Just stayed in New York. But I got, through my network and through collaboration, with my different friends and talking to them and networking with different, investors that they knew, I was able to get my first check, my first funding into a company. Before that, everything was profit-driven. This whole raising money was completely foreign to me. I didn't understand it, didn't know how it worked. How does a company lose money and raise money? It didn't make any sense to me. But we got our first check, and he kind of was able to find every other connection to raise more capital for that business in Bangladesh. And I wasn't running the company. I just put a team together. I just networked in the Bangladeshi community. I didn't grow up there, so I didn't really know anybody. It was just talking to people, having conversations, meeting people. And I was able to find really good entrepreneurs that were not given a chance. Because for them to raise money in an environment like that, and I'm sure you guys are familiar in Nigeria, back in the day when you want to raise money, they used to take 60% of your company or 70% of your company, right? It's very similar in Bangladesh. So for them to have a chance to own a meaningful part of their company and at the same time get funding was huge for them. So that company ended up raising, a lot of money, $20-30 million, and this was. We started with logistics, but it turned into actual motorcycle taxis. And it's funny because in Bangladesh, there is no such thing as a motorcycle taxi. 160 million people, listen to this, worse traffic than Lagos in Dhaka. Can you believe that? Worse than Lagos. That's how bad the traffic, nobody used motorcycle taxis. Nobody even thought of that as a potential, business. So when we started it, people thought we were crazy. We actually had to buy our own motorcycles and hire our own full-time drivers. But then after people realized, wow, this makes a lot of sense. I can get through traffic. It's cheaper. All these people started buying motorcycles, and then it was a freelance platform. So when I went back to New York, I was like, okay, I've done a lot of other businesses, but what kind of business in 2 to 3 years is able to create that kind of value? So I wanted to see where else I could recreate this. And it was definitely not New York. So I had to figure out what that place was. And through just some research that I did on Wikipedia, believe it or not, that's all it was. It was just literally me going on Wikipedia and looking at GDP numbers and looking at population numbers and looking at what place has a lot of traffic. Nigeria is number 7 in most populous country. Bangladesh is number 8. Okay, and then there's like the US, there's like China, there's like India. I'm like, okay, none of these places make sense, so they have too much competition. Indonesia, that place already has like a $10 billion motorcycle ride-sharing company called Gojek. But Nigeria, what's this? Nigeria. What do I know about Nigeria? Okay, I don't want to say. I mean, you guys know. Like, I'll just say it. I mean, I saw videos, scam artists, all this stuff, like the typical stuff. And I hate to say it, but that is actually, people don't know much about Nigeria other than that. But the numbers looked right, and I didn't know anybody in Nigeria. So I told my parents I'm going to Nigeria. So I went over, I kind of explored the terrain. I landed, I went straight to VI, and I went to the mainland once and kind of just looked around a little bit and then went right back to VI because I was too scared to like walk around the mainland. But what I knew there was a lot of Okadas. I knew there was a lot of bike taxis, and I knew what I read online was actually real. Another thing I did was I also searched for Lagos and traffic on Google, and there was a lot of results. So yeah, how do I form a company in Nigeria without knowing anybody in Nigeria? That was a question. And there was an option of what I could do in Bangladesh, which is network for a couple months. I had that option. But that would take a couple months. And from what I've heard in the VC scene, there was already numerous companies knocking on the door ready to start this business. So I had to move fast. So what I decided to do was I made a post on LinkedIn, and I wrote, looking to start the next billion-dollar company in Nigeria. If you would like to join as one of the founders, please message me or link anybody that would be interested. And if they become part of the founding team, then I will give you $1,000 or $1,000 in Bitcoin. And at the end of it, I put, by the way, preferably, don't hate me, foreign educated. And I said that because I thought somebody who had a foreign education would be like traveled around, understood what Uber was, understood Taxify, understood, had a more worldly sense of the view of the world. So that's why I put that in there, not thinking much of it. And also like having Harvard on your resume and then getting funding looks good. That's where it didn't come anywhere from like a bad side to that. But what I found was I started getting all these responses, and they were mostly my friends. But then the responses I started getting were, who is this guy? Who does he think he is? Like, not saying that that we can't be from Nigerian schools and be part of this founding company. And then they started tagging their friends and like, can you believe this guy? And then they started tagging their friends and they started tagging their friends. And I'm like, oh my God, should I take down this post? Because I started getting a lot of just really hateful comments. But then, something funny started happening. I started getting comments from people that were tagged in the hateful comment, but they're like, hey, I know somebody, right? And that was my most popular social media post ever. It got like 400 comments, and I probably spoke to, so out of the 400 comments, I had 30 people that I liked, that I wanted to talk to based on their their profiles. I talked to 20 of them on Skype, and then I really liked 10 of them. So then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Lagos. I met all 10 of them. I liked 4 of them after that, and I'm like, this was in December of 2017. I asked them, are you guys ready to get started? And they're like, you have funding? I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, let's go. And that's how we started. December 2017, we said we're gonna do it. January 2018, we started. And it wouldn't have, I would never be able to start this company without those co-founders. And we started the company January 2018. We all lived in. Oh, this is another thing. We all lived in a house together, because I thought that would be a good way for us to build trust quickly. It was all about doing it quickly. How can we do it quickly? So we were all living in a house together. I got the first-hand view of Nigerian living, and like these guys were loud, and man, like some of the like. Turkey's very popular here. Turkey's like a Thanksgiving thing in the U.S. I was like, what? I don't know. Anyways, it was just we got things going. Everybody built this trust, this friendship really quickly, and it was a great experience. But there's a lot of ups and downs with that. But at the same time, this company would have never existed without me, writing a post on LinkedIn, and I actually did give one or two people $1,000 in Bitcoin. So yeah, collaboration definitely happened with that. Without Nigerian counterparts, this never would have happened. I wouldn't even know where to start alone here, right?
Okay, so just really quickly, how you guys have a laser focus, right, on your fleet, right? I think you see your drivers not as drivers, right? They're partners, right? So they're what? Pilots. They're pilots, right? So in that sense, you're really going at it in a different way, right? In a really collaborative way, right? So how do you build? Because now we want to talk about culture, right? How do you build like that right culture that keeps that collaborative environment, one that people feel is open and they feel respected and there's actually trust, right?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. There's the motorcycle bike taxi space has obviously blown up since January of 2018. I started the business with people saying, this will never work. And I'm like, why not? It's worked everywhere else. And now people are like, why didn't I think of that? Right? But I think there's something very unique that we're doing. And it comes from a place of, honesty and truthfulness. Like we really care about the drivers. Like we're not messing around. Like I don't only do business to make money. I do business because I want to make an impact. I don't want to be on my deathbed and say, oh, I made a lot of money. I want to be on my deathbed and say, hey, I did something, right? So I think everybody at the company really cares about the drivers, and I think we can make a big impact. And when we go out there and we have meetings with the drivers and they all come, and I tell them that, hey, I'm going to do something, or hey, let me listen to your opinions. I do it from a place of truth. Like I really do want to, try to improve their lives. So I think it's just really being honest. Even when I do something wrong or the company does something wrong, I'm honest. I say, hey, yeah, we were actually charging you more and we didn't tell you. I'm sorry. We should have actually put this out there. And they're like, oh, you were charging me more. I didn't even know. And there's a whole ruckus, but they're like, hey, listen, he actually told you that he was charging more. And it's all just truthfulness. As long as you're not trying to do anything bad, why would you not say the truth, right? So I think the drivers really understand that, and I think that's how, what really differs us, at least for the drivers, from other bike taxi companies.